Greetings and salutations to all you folks out there. It is the fourth round of the tournament, or the fourth video at least. We're actually in the losers bracket this time around, and the game is taking place on White Fire. Got some familiar faces up top. Yudi, Silene, Undulata, and Morax going Seraphim, and Aeon in the center. South side, we've got some fresher faces. Looks like Right Clicks is taking the left flank as Seraphim, as is Vortex on the front line. And then we've got Aeon, the faction of choice for this guy. Good to see Vortex back around. I've seen a couple of people recently in these tournaments that I had not seen playing in quite some time. Hover Sim 5000 is thrown out there in the chat, and I think that's an accurate description of what's going to be taking place. White Fire, of course, from the old school of maps. Things you need to know: there's a lot of reclaim all over the place, mostly in these chunks of ice that are scattered hither and yon across the map, but the biggest things that you need to notice are these. There are two per side. T3 Naval HQ worth 3,800 plus mass. Those things will provide either a large grouping of T2 mass extractors or some very early Navy, or maybe a little bit of each. Engineer out for Yudi to catch that up, and Morax will get to it eventually, I am sure. So we're gonna see a fair bit of hover, I would believe. Definitely going to see a lot of naval action. Since the map is completely bisected by water, if you lose naval control, you're going to be in for a bad time. And that's one thing to notice about the naval arena. In land, you can actually make a comeback if you lose your last land factory. In air, you can definitely make a comeback if you lose your last air factory. But Navy is the only force that requires you to build the factory in the medium. So if you get forced out of the water and you can't get an engineer back out, you're not even going to be able to get back into the Navy game. And Navy as a whole is stronger than the land unit counterparts. Even if you've got hover tanks, frigates still come out ahead mass for mass. So it can lead to a very interesting situation if you're not able to maintain your hold on the water. So we're seeing 4 factories going down for Morax, 1 for Yudi so far, 1 for each of these guys, except for this guy. He is not going for a naval factory, at least as of yet. And it looks like Tex is going to take the hyper-aggressive posture, gonna move his ACU all the way across into his opponent's base, and looking at the trajectory of that commander, he is gonna go right for the Hydro and killing off as much build power as he possibly can. Of course, the ACU is going to be much more valuable as a combat tool than as a builder. Once you get past the very earliest portion of the game, it's only worth 2 engineers, but it is worth about 20 tanks. I know we throw that number out a lot, but it's one that you need to remember as you are playing. So I think Silene Undulata should have that ACU scouted, but the scouts might not be able to see down into the water. And actually, these guys are gonna run directly past each other without even seeing the opponent's ACU. That is kind of a ridiculous happenstance, and they are just gonna head right on their merry ways into each other's bases. Not exactly the kind of ring around the rosy that you want to have happening, but it'll at least make for an interesting game. The ACU poking its head out of the water, hitting those tanks. Silene obviously knows that the ACU is over there now, and this is a first for me, seeing the air player actually moving to the other side of the map with his ACU. That is completely out of the ordinary from anything that I have seen before. Tex is now out of the water. He's going after the energy storage so that his opponent will not have overcharge. Silene placing a reclaim order on that so that it doesn't release its explosive payload upon death. Morax is actually out in the water with his ACU. It would be nice if he would move up to the landmass and force Vortex out. Looks like Silene is now going to be climbing out of the water inside of Tex's base, and I don't think we're going to see a base swap. This is probably as close as we're going to get to it on White Fire. Tex going to take out that Hydro successfully, so that is a good bit of damage to his opponent. Silene, I don't think is going to be as successful. There's already a lot of hover already out here, so he has to dodge and weave and dance around those shells in order to not take an absurd amount of damage. It's not really conducive to fighting against land units while getting the hydro. Pardon me. I am about to die. Hopefully not realistically. So there goes the ACU back into the water. What I was trying to get at a minute ago is if you're trying to kill the hydro but you're having to move around, then your ACU is most likely going to prioritize land unit targets and not the hydro that you're trying to kill. So in the end, your cause is a lost one. Frigate is taking some heavy fire, gonna successfully take out a T1 mass extractor, but that is no big dealio. Right clicks is gonna be able to build that back up, and that is going to be a secure naval position for Gray. Right clicks now pursuing Silene Undulata. This is a bit of a weird meetup in the center. We've actually got 3 T1 subs out for Morax. There's also 3 subs for Tex, so I think he'll be able to defend his ACU, and of course with the ACU in this proximity to the subs, he could go ahead and reclaim those naval units and be able to do a whole lot of good for his team. Vortex might have a difficult time reaching land now that his friendly subs have died. He is stripping health away quite quickly, but yeah, he'll be able to tank it out and get up into the base. Silene Undulata now moving back towards his home. Right clicks as well, and Tex just wants to get out of the water before his ACU gets any more unhealthy. Another sub from him coming back up to the top. 3k HP. I might have been wrong. There's 6 subs. They may be able to take this out. 1300 health. Down to 1,300, and oh my goodness, below 100 health. He's dodging, he's weaving. Those subs have now surfaced to use the deck guns to try and kill the ACU. We might actually see a death to submarine deck guns, but Tex is going to be able to get away. Holy cow. That was a close call if ever I have seen one. I think that if both of the opponents had surfaced their subs, they might have been able to kill that ACU, but unfortunately Blue, I think, stayed in the water or was slower getting his subs to the top. One or the other. I didn't see all of them on the surface. Looks like Yudi has wandered out into the water with his commander. I don't know what the benefit to having your ACU out here is, seeing as it is not a torp com and it is not capable of combat under the sea, but maybe he would have been able to walk across and go raid that part of the base. Just once you start getting into the later portions of the game, you end up in a very sticky position if your ACU is out of place, because then you've either got a T2 transport it, or you've got to walk it back across, and it can be very difficult to stay safe while you're doing these things. Silene, Morax, and Yudi now moving back towards their home bases. Frigate in the rear is going to cause some problems for Morax, going to kill off a little bit of build power, but it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Looks like this guy is putting down a T2 power generator adjacent to his air factory. That probably means he's going to go for a T2 shift. Actually, he is already doing it right there. Does have T2 on the ACU. A little bit odd to get it on the commander and not on the factory, especially when your ACU is not going to be very useful in combat. But we won't begrudge him his choices because he is a higher ranked player than I am. In the center, right clicks still trying to fend off some of the threats to Tex's base, and Tex has decided to go for the safest position that he can possibly maintain in the rear of the air player's base. The T2 air factory up already for right clicks. I wonder who he was before. It seems like I should know who he is since he's from the Com clan. T2 torpedo bombers coming out to try to lay in some damage on these frigates. It's a little bit difficult to tell who exactly has the naval superiority. I will say that Morax is doing a dang good job of getting into raid. He's got Zooies moving down the right-hand side, T1 subs out to deal with any frigates that might cause them harm, air swooping in to take that bomber down. So the subs will be able to take out these frigates over time, but as we've discussed before, T1 subs have a little bit of an issue with low damage. So they take a very long time indeed to chew through all the HP on those frigates. Sometimes the frigates can just go in ignore the subs and actually be able to take out the target that they were aiming for. Interceptors from several different people now engaging in the mid. Looks like that's going to be a strong air victory for the north side. Those torpedo bombers are no longer going to be of any use. So the south side team is going to have to come up with a better solution than torpedo bombers to their naval woes. Looks like all of them are still rocking on T1. No T2 factories planned as of yet, whereas on the north side, Morax has already dropped a T2 Naval HQ. Seraphim destroyers will be quite useful as they will be able to deal with hover very easily. Not gonna slip any of those hover tanks or artillery by those destroyers. Salem's and Exodus class, they don't do so well versus that. Salem's better than Exodus, obviously, but they are both highly inaccurate, not able to really effectively hammer those things down. And then the Exodus, of course, has an overkill problem where T1 units are concerned. Beam weapons, on the other hand, burn through all the HP on your target, near instantaneous retargeting to another area, and you're going to finish up your damage cycle on that second unit. T2 factory is building interceptors, I do believe, if I am looking at that little thumbnail in the bottom corner correctly. Nope, those are torpedo bombers. Looks like 2 torps and 8 inties on repeat. They're going to need a little bit more than that to wrest air control away from the north side. Looks like blue interceptors coming on down, seeking out an air factory lock. Green moving in. That was a bit of a lag and not exactly a fantastic air engagement. But UD is going to be able to take care of himself. Of course, the reason for the air fight should be obvious now. There's a torpedo bomber out for UD, and he's going to put that to maximum effect, killing off these T1 subs that are harassing his frigates. That's going to cause a little bit of an issue for the Southside team. They do have enough units, keyword there being enough, to deny any major naval incursion from the north side, but they are going to rapidly lose ground thanks to that destroyer that just came out. And I may have actually been wrong, at least in part. Of course, the air engagement was an excellent thing for those torpedo bombers, but the real reason might be to distract from the fact that T2 transports are moving into Morax's base bearing a payload of pain. Those Zooies are going to rip a new one in this base. Loads of Zooies coming out. I think 16 to 18 per transport, probably 16. And they're just going to instantaneously shred Right Click's rear position. Tex coming out of the water to try to return the favor that Right Clicks gave to him in defending that economy, but I don't think that Tex is going to be very successful at it. He does not have an energy storage or extra power. If he'd been able to overcharge, he would have been able to wipe out about half those already in one click, but alas, it was not meant to be. Artillery going to take out the newly finished T2 HQ. That is bad news, although there is a little bit of a push up here. Looks like Right Clicks is going to be able to take advantage of the economy diversion to take out this HQ, might even be able to do some damage to the build power on the other side, but there is a response coming from the other members of the North team, and now he's going to be missing all of this economy that was going to build him more beautiful units. I am having a bit of trouble here, says Yudi. Well, yes, you've lost a factory, and that is a bad thing. You've also lost air control, because there's now swift winds pouring out of the factories of this guy, and I don't think you're going to be able to pull off any more of those artillery drops. However, your teammates are coming to your aid, albeit a little slowly. I think it's not going to be fast enough, for sure. A little too slowly, because that T2 HQ is going to get knocked out. Yeah, there's no way that they're going to save that at this point. And the 2 destroyers that Morax has are back in the base. They're now moving over to this side, but there's a large group of T1 plus the first Exodus class from the factories is now moving in on Morax's base. There's a second out of the factory as well, and those are going to be able to lay in some heavy damage on the stationary targets in this base. It won't be artillery, it won't be as quick as what was done over here, But over time, these destroyers, should they be able to gain the upper hand in this naval fight, will be able to wipe out every single thing on this landmass with their whopping 80 range. Seraphim destroyers microing hard. Of course, they're able to dodge the shots that the Exodus is putting out, and quite easily indeed. But their beam weapons do not tend to miss. You might reduce your damage by a little due to the fact that one gun is on the front and one is on the rear, and you may not be able to target with both at the same time, or you may lose your targeting solution if you are moving back and forth too much. Oh, forgot the micro on that one. Turned a little too late. But as long as you're turning around, it's, you know, 2/3 of the damage versus none of the damage with perfect micro. So always got to be moving with those Seraphim destroyers. More naval factories going down for Silene Undulata, who is struggling along on a 100% mass stall. Looks like something that I would do in a game. He needs to get out here and snap up this reclaim, because if he were able to get this reclaim field, he would be able to feed those factories for quite some time to come. Also, it would enable him in getting his mass extractors capped off and upgrading that economy. Morax putting heavy assistance on that Sarah destroyer. That's actually the reason for Silene's heavy mass stall. Putting engineers on this T2 build in order to get those destroyers out more quickly. But the payoff is real. It's now a 3-2 outnumbering on the Seraphim side. One of them is not looking terribly healthy, but they should be able to deal with anything that this guy can throw at them. Looks like torpedo bombers now harassing the remainder of those T1 subs. The forces that right clicks were pushing through are now dwindling in number. He's not really producing anything at the moment, and I don't blame him, because he's trying to go back through his upgrade cycles. He was all at T1 mechs, did not have a single T2 left over. He's actually control K'ing his naval factories in order to reclaim those and get his mechs upgrades faster. He's got to get back in this game so that he does not leave his teammates one economy short. Yudi's still just pouring interceptors out of two different factories. Of course, Swiftwinds do hold the heavy advantage in the air, but if you have enough interceptors to throw at the problem, it might not be a problem for much longer. Groups of interceptors that are large enough can even deal with a handful of ASF, as long as they don't absolutely fail in the turns. If you have someone trying to micro the interceptors and they do it incorrectly, then you may miss out on your damage opportunities as the ASF pass you by. But interceptors generally can be useful for nearly the entire game. Looks like ASF Cloud moving up to protect these T2 gunships. Swiftwind's moving in from Silene Undulata, who is taken up a large part in this air game. I did not even realize that he was pushing those out. Looks like he will be able to successfully deny. Of course, interceptors moving in from Beauty on the other side of the map as well. This guy just decided that it wasn't worth the expenditure to try and keep those gunships in the action, especially when he would be fighting over a cruiser. So it's better to just get the hell out. Beauty going to come in, single-handedly take out all of the opposing air. That is a devastating blow. I don't know why this guy hasn't been continuing to build Swiftwinds. He's got the T2 factory, he's got the eco and the power for it, but he's just not doing it. And now Yudi's gonna swoop in and factory lock this poor innocent man. Whatever did he do to you, Yudi? He's on the opposite side of the map. Why are you being so mean? Looks like almost all the core mexes are T2. Nope, actually I am overestimating. 2 are. We've got a 50% upgrade there and 3-2 T1s. One more T2 up on the front. So right clicks is slowly climbing back up on his eco at 25 mass per tick. He's actually outpacing Tex now. T2 torpedo bombers moving over to the right to start dealing with some of the naval units over there. And I am tempted to say, oh, there it is. Right clicks, calling it quits. That's going to be a Control K out to finish the game. They just got worn down too much. I think that artillery drop single-handedly decided this game. Up until that point, both sides had a reasonable amount of units. Both of them had a pretty good chance. They were poking and prodding at each other, but with the loss of that economy and then the air loss that followed, there there was nothing left. There was nothing left that they could do. Alrighty, guys. That is going to wrap it up for this particular game. I'm going to be continuing with the tournament series as I have time. Apologies in advance if I cannot keep up a continuous stream of videos due to my other obligations at the moment. I'm really looking forward to getting through with this week to where I have a little bit more time once again to spend on YouTube and Twitch stuffs. Should be able to get back into the swing of things. But I hope you enjoyed it. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next tournament game.